Hey, Happy Crew, HappiDaze here. In today's video, we are reviewing the global anniversary units that are coming out in just a couple days. I believe this Fest goes live on the 25th at news time. I did see the announcement when these went live on the Twitter, on the One Piece Twitter. When I first took a look, I really wasn't impressed. Had some time to kind of sit down, really kind of digest what they did. Have some thoughts and opinions on the units, so let's get right into them, just because this might be kind of a long video, because we're going to take a look at both the units in this one video. So for those of you who aren't aware, and you probably should be by now, the units for this global anniversary are going to be the Luffy and Lucci unit and a Kaku and Zoro unit. So the fights in the anime that's there, we pretty much kind of thought that that would be the characters that are going to be there, or at least they were going to be Egghead based. So I'm not at all surprised that these were the characters that they chose for this anniversary. Just keep in mind, the Japan anniversary comes up in just a couple months, so you should be saving your gems for this. Like I said, unless units are absolutely broken, usually even when it comes to the global anniversary units, like they're useful for the event period that they're there. And obviously there's Blitz battle, so you kind of want to have these units to get the highest point boosters there, because usually Blitz battles have really great rewards there. But with global anniversary, like if you just remember back to last year, for example, right, we have the Blackbeard pirates and their whole crew there as the global anniversary units. They were really helpful for the event, but like after that event, they just died off. So my recommendation here is to probably, if you have one out of the two that you like, maybe try going for that one. If you don't have a ton of gems, it might be a wiser opportunity to just save until the actual Japan anniversary comes, and you'll have a character that will at least be useful and relevant for at least 6 months to a year. So just from a value point of view, it usually kind of helps to wait. So that being said, let's get into the Luffy and Lucci unit first. So is a fighter free spirit and a fighter shooter character. So obviously the shooter is Lucci, the fighter free spirit is the Luffy, and combined together they are fighter and shooter. Dex and quick type. So nothing kind of too crazy there. Let's take a look at their captain ability. So in their normal form, what they typically do, if you're the Luffy unit here, you're basically going to reduce the special count of characters by 2 at the start of the quest. Boost attack of fighter, shooter, free spirit, and slasher characters by 5.5. 5.5 if HP is above 7% at the start of the quest. And then you also give an HP boost there of 1.3 times. So could be up to 5.5 attack boost, 1.3 HP boost, completely fine. Nothing kind of too broken. Would have been better if it was a little bit higher. Like you kind of expect a little bit more out of these global anniversary units. Would have been nicer if it went 5.5 up to 6 for the attack, but it is what it is. It makes recovery in tandem or special for all characters. It restores special cooldown on all characters by 10 turns when they're rewound. So that's pretty awesome. The special bind and special reverse are kind of more the two annoying debuffs to deal with. The fact that he's able to take care of that special cooldown for all characters by 10 turns as part of his captain ability is really awesome. You'd like to see that. And then when you have Barrier Pen active and you hit with the enemy with a normal attack, it reduces the enemy's barrier duration by 1 turn. So we've seen other units where they have this. If you hit with different status effects, whether it's perfects or whether it's with barrier, you're able to reduce certain status effects for your enemy there. So in this case, if you're, I believe it's Luffy, you can remove that barrier by 1 turn. And you can also get rid of blue shield for 1 turn as well. So that's not bad. You get 2 debuffs down by 1 turn just for having if you use this character who obviously will have barrier pen as part of potential abilities, it'll give you a lot of good stuff. So in the terms of character 2 here, again, you get the cooldown 2 turns, same attack, and the only difference here is if the HP is below 30%, that's when you get the 1.3 times boost. So yeah, depending on whether you have high HP or low HP and what your enemy will be doing, if there's any death hits or hits like that, that will obviously affect the HP boost that you get. So you just want to kind of make sure you're have that in mind as you're team building and thinking about that. And then boost HP of fighter, shooter, free spirit, and slasher by 1.3. Makes recovery orbs and tandem orbs beneficial again. Again, gets rid of special cooldown for 10 turns when it's rewound, which is good. And then for barrier pen for him, he gets rid of resilience by 1 turn, and then he also gets rid of blue shield for 1 turn. So it looks like they can both get rid of the blue shield, which is interesting. I'm surprised that they didn't put a second or a different debuff there. So it looks like obviously the resilience is unique to that character, but not the blue shield reduction. So I imagine we'll see a lot of Blue Shield in the upcoming Blitz battle, and then in their dual character form, again, special down by 2. And again, you get up to 6 times. Okay, so as long as you get your, the captains in dual form, you get to 6 times. That's okay. Like I said, if it was a little tad bit higher, would have been better, but it kind of is what it is. And again, if your HP is either above 70 or below 30, either scenario, then you get the 1.3 times HP boost for a bunch of these different classes here. Again, get recovery 10 orbs is beneficial. You get the special reverse for 10 turns. And with the barrier pen enabled, basically you can get rid of the barrier, the resilience, and the increased defense by 1 turn each. So, like, altogether, like, that's a okay captain. Like, it's not bad. It's a bunch of utility things, a bunch of buffs that you can get rid of. And depending on, what form you're in before you get into that dual captain, you could have different uses for them and use them for different pieces of content. So overall, like, their captain ability is okay. Nothing broken or game breaking that I can see, at least initially. But it's pretty solid. So let's go ahead and get into some of the other things they do. In terms of their sailor ability, so if they are a crewmate, they reduce special cooldown of all characters by 1 turn. So that's great. You love to see that. And so base attack boost, which is kind of whatever. So nothing kind of too crazy there. But the special cooldown for 1 character, if it's a crewmate, is obviously good. As we get towards their special, you'll see that they actually want you to have one of these units in your middle right slot. So that will just kind of help make sure you can kind of get the cooldown of all units down by 3 at the start of the quest, which is pretty cool. So let's get into their swap ability. So reduces the special bind duration on their self by 7 turns, and you can change your orbs of adjacent characters into tandem orbs. So that's good. Obviously the ability to get rid of special bind is awesome compared to the ability to do the special reverse as part of the captain. A lot of times we have those debuffs completely separate. So, for example, like you have the recent Bugyu came out, who I believe can get rid of special bind. You had the Int Sabo who came out and can get rid of special bind. And then you have, units like the Karasu and Morley, I think, was able to get rid of special reverse as part of their special kit. And then I believe you also had the Odin Kinemon generic unit who could also help get rid of some special reverse. So a lot of times they don't give that ability to have both special reverse, special bind at the same time. In this case, they did allow you to do that. So that's actually pretty cool that 1 character can take care of those 2 debuffs. And that's just part of their swap ability, not even part of their actual special. The base attack boost of 500 is just kind of, it's whatever. Base attack boost is one of the most useless buffs in the game, so not gonna worry too much about that. They do have a captain shift, so I'm not a big fan of the captain shift mechanic. Like, I get they do it to kind of encourage you to have to pull a copy of your own, right? But like, I don't know, like, it doesn't seem like the benefits that you get of them are like really good. So personally, like, I'm not a fan of captain switch, but at least for the captain switch for this character, if Luffy is the captain, you switch to Lucci. You can swap this unit with your middle right unit for 10 turns. If your Lucci is your middle right unit and you switch to Luffy, you can swap the unit with your captain for 10 turns. So that's why I was mentioning, they want you to pull a copy of these guys for your own. That we can have them in your middle right slot, have them become captain and get the buffs there. Reduces the switch effect of all characters by 2. So that's okay. Like I said, switch effect, there's a lot of characters now who can kind of help take care of that. So it's nice that you can kind of have another option there. But when you have some that are like 8, right, it could be pretty hard to actually get them to a point where they could kind of use it and really be beneficial there. But it is what it is. It's not a terrible thing. And then lastly, boost the critical rate of all characters by 30% for 3 turns. I hate any of these critical rate debuffs. Like, it's such a trash mechanic. Critical hit rate specifically, because like, it seems like you can get up like super high and it just never hits for me. So yeah, I absolutely hate the critical hit rate component of this swap, or captain shift, I should say. So yeah, not too impressed there. So in terms of what his special can do, so it deals 300 times attack in typeless fixed true damage to 1 enemy, and reduces special bind duration by 7 turns. So again, you can get rid of 7 turns on his swap and then another 7 on his special. So there's gonna be probably a lot of special bind on the upcoming content, unfortunately. And if your captain is a dex or quick fighter / character, allows 2 damage boosting buffs to stack for 1 turn. Okay, so 2 conditional buffs there. And if your captain is a dex or quick shooter or free spirit character, inflicts all enemies with set target. Ooh, that's good. Set target's good. That's one of like the craziest mechanics. I believe it was Cross Guild that first introduced it. But yeah, the ability to get not only additional damage, but usually a cooldown if you can defeat enemies who have the set target set on there, is a pretty awesome ability. So the fact that he gets it, it is a 1.75, so it is kind of what it is there. And of course, like I said, you get a special cooldown if you kill an enemy who has set target stats, and then you become Luffy and Lucci for 3 turns. So, I mean, it's not a crazy special. Like, yeah, the 3 times damage is okay. Gamer to Special Bind is good, but again, his swap can kind of do that. So outside of the content that he's going to be kind of useful for, like, are you going to really even need that swap or that special? And then the good news here is that, like, there are a lot of Dex Quick fighter and slasher characters, so like I'm not kind of too worried about that, or even Dex Quick shooter free spirit. So like you'll be able to easily build teams that will kind of meet those 2 conditions. So I don't see that as a kind of hindrance, but yeah, I think out of the special, probably the set target status is probably my favorite part of that special there. So let's go ahead and see. He is on a 15-turn cooldown. I believe once you get max level limit break, he gets down to 14. And he does have a super special. You need 3 units on the crew. And for those 3 units, it could be any of the Straw Hats. Can be CP9 units there. And also they throw in the Bonnie and Sussy and Kuma from Egghead as well. So we got a lot of these units recently, both Straw Hat crews and in Bonnie and Kuma, and also Sussy as well. She got the Int version not long ago. So it should be pretty easy to fulfill that condition of getting 3. And the fact that it can be launched as a crewmate is really good. That's probably one of the most beneficial effects of the super specials that people have. So yeah, we do like the ability that you can do it as a crewmate, and it's not kind of too hard to probably build around those characters. So it changes block orbs into tandem, super block into tandem as well, and then boosts attack against delayed enemies and paralyzed enemies by 2.25 for 1 turn. And then you can choose to remove the captain swap, and then Dex into Super Dex, and then Quick into Super Quick. So yeah, the ability to have attack boost against delayed and paralyzed is good. But as you probably already saw, like he doesn't have anything to do that in his kit. So it's just kind of, that's great. You have to have maybe some of these support rare recruits that can do that for you. I'm sure you'll have plenty of NOM units who can do the paralysis. Like Usopp could do the delay, right? But I don't know. I like the block, the change in the block and the super block part of it. But yeah, the second part just kind of really doesn't make too much sense to me. So yeah, that's kind of the main kit of the character. For level limit break, he can end up getting crit hit. Obviously, they want you to do some crit stuff there. It's just kind of whatever. You get Barrier Pen, which is good. You can get a special cooldown of 1 turn. And then he does have a last tap. So let's see what the last tap is. It's probably a little bit farther below here. So yeah, potential abilities, crit hit, Barrier Pen, last tap. Yeah, so it's the base attack boost stuff. It's a useless thing. Like, it's great from the fact that you don't have to pull like 1,000 copies to max out their last tap, but like it's just such a useless debuff. Like I hate this debuff with a passion. Buff I should say, because like it's just not worth the investment. They do throw the ability to resilience up to 3 turns if you can get it up to level 5. But that's a lot of investment. Right now, typically when we have events that have units that have resilience, like it's typically like 3 turns, right? So if you had 2 of these characters, and let's say you can even get up to level 4, like yeah, you can remove 2 turns of resilience, and then maybe you do a tap with one of them to kind of remove that final turn. But it's just like the resilience makes it better, but it's just not there, unfortunately. So I can't see a lot of people are going to be pulling specifically for dupe copies to max out this last tap, and because they're a global anniversary unit and they're not going to be around for a lot of events except for this one and the global anniversary, and then the half year anniversary as well. A lot of people aren't going to have this guy maxed out, unfortunately, and that's going to kind of limit what he can do in terms of play. and on top of being obviously a Luffy character as well, and Luffy characters always get better versions that come out, and I wouldn't be shocked to see a better version come out for the global anniversary for Japan. Sorry, for the Japan anniversary as well. So, yeah, not impressed with the last tap. So let's just scroll down so we can do in Pirate Rumble. So really, he's focused on boosting shooter class units here. Shooter's just not in a good spot right now. They just don't have a lot of damage, not a lot of synergistic units. So let's see what this guy can do. Obviously, defense up is always good. You appreciate that. CT speed up, level 5 is good. So that will kind of help your shooters go quicker. But the problem is, like I said, they can go quicker, but there's not a lot that can do like a massive amount of damage to keep up with some of those other teams, like the Slasher team, like the Strength team. So yeah, I don't. It'll make the shooter team better, but this isn't gonna like make that meta, I don't think, unless they have like a really broken special or something like that. But let's take a look. So level 10, 31 CT, which is pretty high. Basically, you just get the attack of level 6, which is just whatever, and targets one side powerhouse class enemy for 8k damage. So yeah, I'm sure as you probably saw in some other videos, like that's really just meant to take out the S-Bear, which is stupid because S-Bear, you don't really see him too frequently in Grand Party matches. So it seems like it's kind of solving a problem that's not always there. And then he does target 2 enemies with low current HP, ignoring defense for 1.4 2 times. So that's good. Any kind of attack through defense is always good. 1.4 seems kind of low. So yeah, we'll have to see how that actually works in practice. But overall, not super impressed with his Power Rumble skills yet. He actually can go up to it looks like 1.6 times damage if he is a level limit broken, and you receive the specials twice on him as a character. So this is kind of the weird part of what they do, right? So the base super special here targets 2 side powerhouse class enemies for 10k damage, right? And then 2 enemies with low HP for 1.6 damage. If you're able to get the level limit break version of him, this changes instead of 2 side powerhouse to 2 powerhouse, which is like a much better, right? At least that way, like you're not targeting S-Bear, right? If S-Bear's not on the team, like you could still actually get like some advantage. It's not like a ton of side powerhouse that you'll find out there. So like his level limit break super special is like much better. Like if they made this his regular special, this unit might actually see more play. But I think as it kind of is, you probably won't see too much. The shooter team's not in a great spot right now. So yeah, unfortunately, that is the end of the details for the Luffy and Lucci unit there. Obviously, like I said, the Luffy unit is the Dex, the Quick unit is the Lucci there. But overall, like my thoughts are like I'm not really impressed, which is kind of a shame. I love Luffy. Luffy's probably my favorite One Piece character that's out there. So you know, I like seeing broken Luffys, right? That's completely fine if they break Luffy for me. But in this case, like that's just not the case. Like he's good. He can do a bunch of damage if you have the right criteria to get the extra conditional boosts and the additional attacks against delayed or paralyzed enemies. But if you don't have that, I think it's gonna be pretty tough. So yeah, that being said, let's go ahead and dig into the second unit of this event, which is the Zoro and Kaku unit. So let's go ahead and see what they can do. So for Zoro and Kaku, we do have a Slasher and Free Spirit unit there, as well as a Slasher and Shooter. So obviously, Zoro is the Slasher Free Spirit part of that. The Kaku is a Slasher Shooter. They are Dex and Quick again, similar to what you saw with the Luffy and the Lucci. So yeah, interested they're keeping the same colors there. So let's go ahead and take a look at what they can do, see if there's any difference between the non-base form and the evolved form. So for the first one here, which is a Zoro, boost attack of fighter, shooter, free spirit, and slash characters by 5 times, up to 5.5 times if they have a beneficial orb, and then he gives a 1.3 times HP boost, and then makes quick, dex, and tandem orbs beneficial for fighter, shooter, free spirit, slashers. And then when a quick or dex character performs a critical hit, it's these critical hits. I'm sorry, I hate this debuff. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of this debuff at all. But if you can get to trigger, then he can reduce the threshold damage by 2 turns, which is pretty good. And then at the start of the fight, boost attack against enemies with reduced defense and enemies inflicted with burn by 3 times for 5 turns, and then reduces the switch effect of all characters by 2. So that's interesting because he doesn't have the ability to give that unless it's part of his special to get the reduced defense. So that's interesting. Let's see what he can do there. And the burn as well is just an interesting choice for a debuff. Switch effect for 2 is pretty good though. That's pretty solid. And then if you are in the Kaku version, you boost attack of fighter, shooter, free spirit, and slash characters by 5 times, up to 5.5 times if you have beneficial orbs. If you have a shooter, free spirit, slasher, or fighter, you get 1.3 times HP boost. Makes Dex Tandem Orbs matching again. And then when a quick or Dex character performs critical hit, performs the Rainbow Shield duration by 2. So not bad. If you are in the Zoro form, you can get rid of the threshold. If you're in the Kaku form, you get rid of the percent damage reduction. And then you can, again, boost attack against enemies who have the reduced defense and enemies inflicted with increased damage taken by 3 times for 5 turns. That's pretty high. Increased damage taken 3 times for 5 turns. And again, reduces the switch effect of all characters by 2. So far, like, both characters have some good utility in their base form. So I'm kind of looking forward to see what they could do in their dual captain. So in their dual captain form, they boost attack of fighter, shooter, free spirit, and slash characters by 5.5 times, up to 6 times if they have beneficial orb, and then gives HP of 1.3. Again, quick Dex Tandem Orbs matching for those character types that we talked about earlier. And then when a quick or Dex character performs critical hit, reduces enemies' damage reduction, which is the rainbow shield, and the threshold damage by 2 turns. So, the ability to just get rid of 4 turns of that debuff, assuming both of your units can hit a critical hit, which is, again, just a pain to deal with. I really hate that. I really wish they would have made this like if they hit a perfect instead. I think that would make them like so much better. The critical hit is just super hard to trigger, at least in my opinion, for what I've seen in the game. All right, so let's see what they do for part of their Sailor ability. Reduce attack down by 1 turn, so that's good. You love to see that. You get some base attack boost by 125, which isn't kind of too crazy. And then you get Dex and Quick Orbs beneficial. So yeah, nothing kind of too crazy in their Sailor. Attack down by 1 is cool. Can't complain there. I think the Luffy and Lucci has the ability to do the special cooldown. It's a little bit better. But still, attack down isn't that bad. So they do have a swap. So if you do the regular swap, reduces the defense of all enemies by 50% for 1 turn. So this is where you can get the ability to get the when they're in their base form, the ability to get that increased damage if they have if the enemy has increased defense apply or the debuff taken away from them, right? So use the swap, and then you can kind of trigger the ability of to boost the additional attack here. So that's cool. The fact that their swap can give that to you is definitely really cool. Like that. Not going to complain there. So then on their super swap, which is 6, which is good, not kind of too high, ignores debuff protection and completely removes the blue shield. Also reduces attack down by another turn. Okay, so you get 2 automatically with their Sailor and with their super swap. And then gives an attack boost to these characters by 1.75, and then gives an orb boost that's 1.75, and both of them are overrideable. And then increases the duration of any status effect buffs by 2 turns. So that means that instantly you do super swap, you'll have these guys give you 3 turns of the attack and orb boost. And if you do another super swap, then that will give you also another 2 turns. So potentially up to 5 turns if both do their super swap there of the 1.75 orb boost and the 1.75 attack boost there. So really strong. Like that's going to be awesome. And the fact that it's overrideable is even better. It means you can kind of make it much better. So yeah, like that's a pretty solid swap. So far, captain ability is pretty good. And like I said, minus the critical hit thing, I wish I was a little bit different. But outside of that, like swap is good. Captain ability is okay. In terms of special, it does 100 times character's attack in typeless fixed damage to all enemies, and then gets rid of attack down by 6 turns. So you could tell like it'll be really easy to get rid of 8+ turns of attack down with this character. So again, that makes him pretty strong. And then what, in my opinion, what makes him the strongest part is his ability to reduce orb-based damage reduction. So this has been in a ton of content recently. there's not really a way to get around it outside of swapping your orbs to, orbs that aren't what they're doing the damage reduction based on. But sometimes that can be hard. So the fact that he can just remove that himself is fantastic, and that's going to make this unit see a ton of play in just regular content and helping to get through stuff. He sets the chain boundary to 3 as the minimum, up to 35. Again, that can let you get a ton of damage, and then adds 2 to the chain. To the chain for 1 turn. So like you're gonna like start out like absolutely nuts and just do a ton of damage with this guy. And if this character was captain at the start of the adventure and is a crewmate when the special is activated, so if he had a captain swap, so I didn't see anything that lets him switch spaces, so I'm assuming that they actually want you, to have this guy as the captain on your team. Use the ability of the Luffy and Lucci there in the middle right column to swap with him as a captain, and then you'll activate this kind of second bit of buffs here. So if you do that, if you start off as a captain but you become a crewmate as part of the ability to swap those captains, increase the duration of status attack and boost by 1 turn. So again, you can get that up to potentially 6 turns, which is kind of crazy. And then also gives a 0.35 addition to there. So that's a 2 point, a little bit more like a 2.1 roughly, right, boost that you get there. And you become Zoro and Kaku for 2 turns. So 5 turns of like a 2 plus or 2 times plus attack and orb boost is like insanely strong and really good. So yeah, this guy's special is definitely really good. We'll definitely see some play. Obviously, it doesn't have like it's much more utility focused, right? Because you get the chain stuff, you get the damage reduction stuff. The damage reduction for orb stuff. You get the attack down stuff. Whereas the Luffy Lucci unit was much more like focused on like Unga Boonga damage, right, and doing the most output you can there. This guy's just kind of letting you like keep up a lot of buffs for a really long time, which is pretty good. He is on a pretty low cooldown with a 13 turn cooldown, so can't complain there. Again, he has a super special and can be launched as a crewmate, so that's fantastic. We love when that happens. You have to have 3 of the following units on your crew, which is, again, the same units that the Luffy Lucci had, so any of the Straw Hats, any of the CP9, and then Stussy, Bonnie, and Kuma, so she'll be easy to get these, get teams that build that. You get 70 times the character's attack as additional typeless damage for 5 turns, enables chain lock buffs to be enhanced up to 2 times, increase the boost effect of chain lock buffs by 0.5, and then turns slasher characters into super slasher and shooter into super shooter. So yeah, like that's a pretty good super special. The ability to do some additional stuff on the chain after his regular special already does that. We'll just let you like just do a ton of damage over time for a bunch of turns that are there. So again, super special is great. You can launch as a crewmate, which is even better. So yeah, like overall, like this unit is pretty solid. He has all his stuff is actually pretty good. Let's take a look real quick. At what he can do on limit break. So you can obviously reduce special cooldown by 1. He gets a super tandem. He has barrier pen too. Critical hit as well. And then basically, the barrier pen is probably the best out of all these. Like I said, I think characters that have barrier pen are super underrated sometimes because they can get through a lot of those gimmicks with Threshold and Rainbow Shield and things like that. So definitely love that they gave him barrier pen. That'll help things get great. Again, crits are just like I know you get a 70% chance to trigger the crit, but it seems like it's much less than that in my opinion. So yeah, that's great. You can get him up to level 1, still get the same amount of chance of getting a crit as you can at level 5. But yeah, it doesn't seem like it's 70% from my playthroughs there. He does have a super tandem, so let's see what he can actually do. So on the last stage, your crew must consist of any 2 of the following. So any of the Straw Hats, CP9. You can't have. It's interesting that they removed the Bonnie and the Kuma from here, unless maybe this might be wrong units here, but I'm surprised that they kind of stripped them out from there. But if you have that and you have those 2 units on the last stage, you can boost the tandem attack of fighter, shooter, free spirit, and such characters by 2 times for 1 turn. Boost critical hit damage of fighter, shooter up to 75% for 1 turn. So like it's again, the critical hit damage is like not the key aspect of it. It's really getting the attack boost here of up to 2 times, and the ability of the Luffy Lucci unit to be able to give you, those tandem orbs, right? Like it's gonna work really well with this character. But even if you don't have this character, we have so many ways to get tandem orbs today that like you'll be able to trigger this pretty easily. And the classes that it mentions here like are all very accessible classes. So yeah, like you'll just get a bunch of extra damage there. So yeah, it's really tough to complain. Super Tandem's pretty good there. Let's see what they do in terms of Rumble. So they do. Looks like they help out slashers and shooters, which is kind of the theme of this season. Just give some HP. Okay, so the defense level 8 is really good. That'll definitely help out. The problem that I immediately think of is like, is this guy gonna like replace anyone in the meta slasher team, right? And it's tough because a lot of times you have the Roger and Whitebeard, right? You have the S-Hawk. Usually have a couple cooldown reducers, right? Whether it's the Odin or whether it's Cracker, and you have usually the other Zoro and Sanji unit, right? Who just let you do haste to your whole slasher team, right? So like this guy doesn't seem to be better than them, right? So I think it's going to be tough to have this guy really see a lot of play in either the slasher or shooter team, and I think that just kind of takes away a lot from his ability in Pirate Rumble. But his special at level 10, 26 turn CT, so not too high, but 26 is still pretty up there. He gives himself a attack up level 5 for 20 seconds, targets one int slasher class enemy ignoring defense for 1.5 damage. Again, they want you to kind of take out S-Hawk with this guy, and then performs the following 2 times. So you can do basically targets one high attack enemy for defense down level 5, so it'll be level 10, and then you basically do damage 4.5 times twice, and then attack down level 10. So like, yeah, it'll do some extra damage there. The fact that this does go through defense means that you're going to be a little bit limited in what you can do there. But yeah, he's kind of made to take out S-Hawk, and then kind of just hit one other guy there. Whether he'll be able to actually kill the second guy, depending on what units they have, right? If you have like the Shanks unit, for example, on the slasher PvP team, he could have a shield, and then like this will kind of not really do much. So that's why like I'm not like super impressed with this guy's special or his captain for Rumble. But let's see what his super special can do. So in the base form, he gives himself attack up level 8, targets 2 ent slasher class enemies, ignore defense. Okay, so this is where you start really getting into that, right? So before you can only target one int slasher, but like again, when you think of it, like there's not a lot of int slashers out there. Again, the Roger and Whitebeard unit don't count as an int unit because they have the kind of the dual unit there, right? So they don't have they don't have a color associated with them. They have the class, but they don't have the color. So like on that meta slasher team, like who are you gonna attack outside of S-Hawk, right? So that kind of again makes it a little tricky to say like there's a lot of value here. And then basically, instead of doing a 4.5 attack, he does a 5 times attack twice, and then gives a little bit higher buffs than you got before. So just as a little bit more damage, but again, I don't think at his base form it's really good. Now, once you get up to his level limit break form, that does change, right? The ability to target 2 slasher class enemies ignore defense for 2 times the damage is really good. That's actually fantastic. So if you have him level limit break, yeah, he could see maybe some value, right? I still don't think he replaced the Zoro Sanji unit on the slasher team, but he at least has some more value there by doing that. And then performs the following for 3 times, so he can do 3 times a attack times 5 damage. So like pretty much you could probably take out almost 3 units if you can get the level limit break to go. But like I said, you do have to take 2 specials, which isn't like too crazy. Again, if you have like the Shanks unit on your team to give you a little bit of shield and defense, you could probably take 2 hits pretty easily, still survive, and then be able to kick off this special. So but until he's really level limit breaked, it's going to be really tough, I think, to to really get the most out of this guy. So we probably won't see this guy, too often in PvP. So that's going to wrap up the 2 units there. Again, I know this video is pretty long, so I appreciate you guys for sticking around with me. But my final kind of thoughts are, like, I think the Luffy and Lucci do a lot of damage, which is really awesome, right? And again, the ability to get rid of block and super block slots, again, is awesome. The special reverse, special rewind is really cool. But like I said, I think they'll be power crept pretty quickly. I wouldn't be surprised if even the Luffy unit was power crept for the Japan anniversary. Usually they always have a Luffy unit that comes out on the Japan anniversary, and the benefit of the previous Luffy that came out, right, the Strength Luffy, was that he kind of helped do some int destroying for PvP, right? So like he had some value outside of just PvE content, right? So you'll see him on free spirit teams for probably a good 3 to 6 months going forward, right? But this Luffy doesn't really have that. Yeah, he could do how about a little bit on like shooter teams to make them do a little bit more damage, but like he's not gonna revolutionize that meta. You're not gonna be using him for Grand Party as a leader. So intrinsically, like his value just goes down. So that's kind of the downfall of that unit. The Zoro and Kaku unit, I think, have a lot more utility. Like I said, the ability to get the chain buffs that are there. Even though I'm not a big fan of it, the ability to be able to remove some buffs, whether it's Threshold or Rainbow Shield, with hitting the crits is good. It's helpful. People will definitely use that. And again, the 1.75 up to 2.1 time attack and orb booster that can last for 5 turns is nuts, right? Especially if you're doing like content like Kazuna, things like that, right? Like having that ability to have that go through all the stages will be helpful and actually could see some play. So like if I had to pick one of these to get, I would probably say Zoro and Kaku is probably the plan. At least that's just my thoughts and opinions there. Not that I don't think Luffy and Lucci are good. I think that they'll definitely see a spot in doing tons of damage. Getting rid of that resilience is really good as well. It's a kind of annoying debuff, but we do have a ton of ways to get through that with like end of turn damage, things like that. So it's not as big of a deal. So yeah, that's why I think ultimately Zoro and Kaku might be probably the better unit of these of these two. We'll have to see what the Sugo structure looks like. Like I said, I don't know how they're gonna structure what legends go on which banner. But depending on how that goes, that might affect how people pull. But I think personally for me, I'm probably going to end up pulling on the Zoro and Kaku banner. I think I have roughly like 650-ish gems right now. So yeah, we'll see what happens on those parts. So that's going to wrap it up for me today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you guys for sticking around and getting my thoughts on these characters. Like I said, kind of disappointed. Similar to last year's Blackbeard, I just wasn't super excited for them. Obviously because it's Luffy, that does make me excited just because I like Luffy. But ultimately, I think they kind of did him dirty, right? Having him released now, when we'll probably get another version very shortly. So thank you guys so much for watching. It's gonna wrap it up for me today. As always, until next time, be kind to each other. Thanks.